Have you ever wondered if they were going to introduce another Langrisser series? Do you guys even know if there was another one out there? Because I sure haven't. Until a couple of months ago, when Cian mentioned Langrisser Millennium. And here it is in Global. We'll first be getting Xeon and Tiana from that series. And most definitely we're gonna get more characters from that series as time goes on. To start things off, let's talk about the character that I'm sure plenty of you guys have seen in Apex Arena, which is Tiana. She's a physical attacker who's part of the Glowy Meteor Euless team that can be Lancer or Assassin class, who needs her banner partner, Xeon, for her bonds. Her talent increases attack and defense with no melee penalty. At the end of action, she can choose an ally to give them Guardian. When an ally with Guardian is within 3 blocks, whenever they perform a normal attack or are attacked, Tiana will guard for them, while having stats up and a revive that heals her based on the HP that she had before dying, which has a cooldown. Before I talk a lot more, let's go over the rest of her skills real quick. For one, she has a passive where she gets 2 extra mobility if there's no ally guardian within 3 blocks. When using this, she heals 30% HP and gets Defender, so the next time that you attack for the guardian, if you have acted already, she can act again that lasts for 3 turns. To then which, she can act again moving 3 blocks. Her 2C is an AoE that hits in a straight line that reaches across the map, but it can only hit one enemy. After using it, she receives Blade Preventive Attack that increases her damage, attack spurs, and heals 20% HP before battle for 2 turns. Her 3C has a passive where she applies Solitude after dealing damage to an enemy for 2 turns. When fighting them, she ignores guard and deals damage directly to the hero. This skill is a single target where she gets attack boost and tenacity before battle for 2 turns, and melee soldiers can attack with you. If there's an ally guardian within 3 blocks, the cooldown of the skill is reduced. Otherwise, she can teleport within 3 blocks of the guardian that has a 2-turn cooldown. Alright, I felt like it was more important to show off the skills first before I give my final thoughts. So to understand and use Tiana, you need good fundamentals, which translates to knowing the basics, like understanding the character and especially positioning. She's all about playing around that one ally that she marked. That's how you bring out the best of her abilities. And if that's something that you don't understand or is really hard for you to do, then I don't recommend her at all. But if you want to give her a chance, then I recommend practicing. Learn all about positioning and learn all about what she can do. 2 of the most important yet basic information in order to play Langrisser at all. Once you understand that, you're gonna realize that she has great potential, and that same logic applies to when you are attacking with her. Her AoE is meant to mark whatever enemy that you want to kill, and that mark comes from her 3C, so that she can easily kill them. If her partner has like great synergy, like for example Bright Summoner, it's gonna be great since Tiana can move up safely due to being quite physically tanky and moving alongside like her unicorn. So Chris can teleport near the unicorn while staying within 3 blocks of Tiana. You're gonna want to do a normal attack, but instead of Chris attacking, Tiana will actually be the one attacking, and if it's the marked enemy, even better, she'll most likely be able to kill. If that was kinda confusing, then I would recommend trying to watch some gameplay of her. There are quite a bit out there. You're gonna have to look deep for it, and I'm gonna say this again, Tiana can be a tricky character to use. She's all about positioning and playing alongside her partner at all times, while focusing on the marked enemy. Like I said before, I recommend doing quite a bit of practicing with her in order to understand how to play her correctly. That goes especially for you guys who want to PvP with her. For PvE, she makes for a decent attacker, I suppose, but that's really it. The basics like positioning, which is something that you need to understand, is actually something that you will end up doing naturally. She is skippable, but don't let it stop you. If you want her just because you like the character, then go for it. Alright, on to the protagonist, Xeon, who is our 3rd protagonist faction buffer. He's a physical attacker that's part of the protagonist, Glowy, and Euless faction that can be infantry or cavalry class, who needs Tiana for his bonds. His talent increases his attack. At the end, if he fought without killing, he gets King's Order, where he does more damage and attacks first for 2 turns. If the enemy is killed, he can pardon the enemy to prevent them from moving, guarding, attacking, or using skills the next turn, and applies Sluggish Combat, so that they deal less damage and have their healing reduced. When he pardons the enemy, he fully heals his HP. I just want to let you guys know that he is able to kill because you have the option to pardon the enemy, and if you do nothing, then the enemy is straight up dead. But for enemies with the revive, that's where it kind of gets weird, because even if you kill them and if you pardon them, they'll still have that revive. You would think it's kinda terrible, but there are a bit more benefits if he does that. Also, if he kills them and pardons them, they actually have their HP restored by 1%. His 1C has a passive where if there is an enemy with sluggish combat within 3 blocks, it gives him a revive. This 1C is also supposed to be an at the Gunn skill to move 3 blocks, which heals 30% HP and gives him King's Order for 2 turns, which I really appreciate. That King's Order is going to help him a lot. His 2C is a single target skill that removes 3 buffs before battle. Afterwards, he can move 3 blocks. If it kills, the cooldown is reduced by 1 and soldiers can attack with him. His faction buff is for the protagonist team to increase single target skill damage, and if it doesn't kill, the cooldown is reduced by 1 for 4 turns. His 3C passive is also a faction buff that does more damage in battle for 4 turns. It's a single target skill that dispels 5 buffs before battle. If at least 2 allies are killed, he gets Fate, where he does more damage by 30% and attacks first. When King's Order is obtained, its duration increases. If he fails to kill, then he can act again. So overall, Xion is just mostly a insanely strong character. I can see like a bit of potential, like maybe tank bust in PvP to prevent them from guarding. You always want to engage with this 3C at all times, but at the Gunn at least. Because due to many characters having insane defense and so many characters having a revive, he's gonna be able to double tap if need may be. So he can one shot with his 3C, then pardon the enemy, so that'll make it so that they are alive, which will activate his revive, and it should let him at the Gunn since they aren't dead yet. And then he can do something else, like maybe take out another enemy, go for like the double kill or double tap if you need to. What I find kinda interesting is how different his faction buff is. His 3C gives a general damage increase in battle, whereas his 2C faction buff gives single target damage increase, and more notably, that skill cooldown. It's probably the biggest difference that I've seen from a faction buff, if I'm understanding that correctly. I don't know, there might be another one out there, but I just can't remember on the top of my head right now. But normally with the 3C faction buff, it's supposed to be an upgraded version of it. And I'm mainly pointing this out because his 2C single target can get a full refresh if he's fighting the beefier enemies. Besides that, Xion can make for an incredible damage dealer if you need one. There is potential in PvP, he can stall out tanks, he can double tap revive enemies. I think his issue is that he wants to always be able to kill, and with how I pointed out earlier, there's a lot of characters with defense increase. All of his trigger is locked behind killing an enemy, and if he can't do that, then it's like, what else can he do? He can't really do anything else, besides being a protagonist faction buffer. We have an exclusive armor for Gunn. Each time Lone Wolf Revenge is removed, his healing is reduced. Moonwolf Might provides something extra, where at the end of action, he can choose to remove it to get Revenge, which has a 1-turn cooldown. Honestly not bad, because that Revenge form makes him extremely offensive, but originally to obtain it, he had to die for it. But having this, you have way more control over him, but you still want to be really careful since it makes it more and more harder for him to get Moonwolf Might, because it reduces his healing effect, which means he can't get enough HP for him to get Moonwolf Might, which is a safer form because of the revive. For the casting skills, first up is Wehttam. If he's within 3 blocks of his sword summon, upon that, he deals AoE damage to enemies within 3 blocks to inflict despair. If he's within 3 blocks of the sword, it can be teleported within 2 blocks of him. A huge dub that he has control over it, in order for it to make it work. Is it enough to bring him back? Not really, no. The buff is niche, nothing too crazy. Elwin is our second one. You guys are not gonna believe this. When there is no allies within 2 blocks, using his 3C increases attack by 30%, and this next part right here should be when the target is killed. Its passive will trigger his faction buff, while triggering it for the Empire team. This is so crazy. One of the craziest buff that we have ever seen in a while, I'm pretty sure. Like one of the most insane one yet. His biggest issue was that his 3C would only trigger again, the faction buff at least, was to have an ally die. So him having to kill in order to re-trigger it was already good enough. It was his only glaring issue. But the fact that he gets to buff the Empire team is just like mind-blowing. It's wild. I think it's a sign that Long Games wants us to use Elwin a lot more often. It was already good enough, but they just wanted to add a little bit more. Third up is Autokrato. When using skills with displacement and teleport effects, the enemy mobility is reduced by 2 for 2 turns. Another huge dub. His main purpose is to disrupt the enemy's positioning, so adding the mobility decrease on top of that just adds more salt to the wound. And I'm pretty sure his debuff makes it so that the enemy, like his unique debuff, makes it so the enemy takes more damage the less block that they move, which is honestly really amazing. It sucks to be on the other side of him cause he is really annoying, since his 3C has massive range, and it's spammable too. The last one is for Lisa. When selecting her form, the cooldown is removed. The cooldown to select between her different forms has an extremely high cooldown for some reason, something that I just don't understand. But having this is no longer an issue, makes it so that you have more control over her, which is pretty nice. With some of the interesting banners, I rated with Isolde, one of the best DPS in the game who's also a mythical faction buffer. A Destiny banner with Adon Kelmo, who's very good in both content. Her portal mechanic can be used for at-the-game purposes for herself and her team. This makes her really great at stage control, and if you have her exclusive, her portal can slow down the enemies, while also giving characters an attack and int up when they go through it. A wishlist banner for the mobile characters. The only one in here that you should really care about is Rosencio, since she's a broken healer. And if you need a DPS, then Helena is a good one. This is going to be my last time mentioning this banner since it will always show up every month at the same week period. And plus these characters are pretty old, so besides Rosencio, a lot of the characters in here are going to get outclassed by the newer characters. As for the content, a new time rift all about the Millennium series, Season 19 Apex Arena, the Tower Defense game mode, the Odyssey game mode added a new feature where we can use the sigils in certain PvE content such as the Secret Realm stages and Time Rift. The Rune Workshop, this new ticket right here that's called the Warp Permit to instantly clear a story level or Time Rift stage, which can be bought by using crystals. I'm also hoping that there are other ways to get them. Then the usual Anakin casting stage unlock with extra Secret Realm chance, more gold from dailies and vouchers, and floating city output increase. Maybe get a fate too. CN got it in this update, so there is a possibility. There should be a few login event, at least 2 of them maybe, Global might get. And lastly, there'll be a new event to replace the Matcha Lotto just for this update. There'll be 4 new soldier skins, a text frame, and a ticket that you get when you participate in it to exchange some items, such as scrolls. For all the skins coming up, an Echo Light for Tiana and Xeon. Not too bad, not too shabby. I find it kind of funny that like half of the protagonist characters, like the main one, got an emo skin as an Echo Light, while like half of them are like something else random. Like I think Sigma has like the disco pop star, I think that's what it is, and they made Elwin a samurai. With the conclusion of season 18, the champion skin for Lightbringer will be available. So with season 19, the gold skin for Lippany and the silver soldier skin for the Star Prism of Pegasus. In the store, we might be able to get the Maya wedding skin. The Maya stands out there. I wouldn't rejoice yet, because I'm not 100% sure yet. Because CN got it in this update and Global didn't mention it yet, so there's always the possibility of we might get it, we might not. It's just how it is. Because some of the stuff that we get are like week to week, so we just have to wait a little bit longer. Angelina wedding skin next, please. Finally, the 4 new soldier skins, which includes the Poison Bat Mage, Deck Gunner, Forest Priest, and Lizard Rider, from the event that I mentioned earlier that was going to replace the Matcha Lotto just for this update. Be sure to stockpile on a bunch of crystals if you are going for these skins. I don't know how much it is, but what I can say for sure is that it costs a lot, like an insane amount. Alright, so that was about everything, if not most everything that the global side of Langrisser is getting. Like always, expect something new being added and something to be not included. That's just how global rolls. I just want to warn you guys that they want us to get crazy spending these crystals. Although this update can be a skip, the thing to get the new soldiers will be pretty happy if you guys are planning on it. Because next month is the Captain Commando collab, who are mainly PvP focused, but the next month after that is the 6th anniversary. So what they're planning is that they're trying to get us to spend before the main event. It's how they play us. The CM players may be more susceptible to it, but for global players and the other servers that are behind, we can prepare. Honestly, we should be thanking the CM players because they are on the front line. They're usually never prepared. Whenever they get the news, they have like 2 weeks of notice or something like that. Anyways though, I'm pretty interested in Tiana. I think her gameplay is just like way more interesting. Like it gets you like kind of more invested in what you're doing compared to Xion. His gameplay is just like really straightforward. She's really great at single target rushing too. It's something that I'm trying to get myself to do, but I still prefer AoE rushing. But that's all I got. If you guys did enjoy this video, feel free to like and subscribe if you want to see more, and feel free to let me know down in the comments how you guys feel about this update or maybe about the characters. Are you guys skipping or are you guys saving for the next 2 upcoming months, which are pretty big? So yeah, thanks for watching. Your fellow C.